Peter Daniels sat on the wide balcony of his luxurious mansion in Lagos, dressed in a white silk robe, sipping freshly brewed coffee. From the 25th floor of his penthouse, he could see the whole city stretching out in chaos and beauty. Welcome to Sarah Wood's Tale, where stories comes alive. Please do well to hit that subscription button and turn on your notification bell for subsequent stories. The sky was a soft orange, and the sounds of traffic were muffled by the thick glass windows behind him. Everything about his life screamed success: his gold wristwatch, the sleek black car parked below, and the marble floors that seemed to shine without effort. But Peter was not smiling. His face was serious. His eyes were tired. Just a week ago, he had collapsed in his office. The doctors called it a mild heart attack, but there was nothing mild about it. For 5 full minutes, Peter thought he was going to die. It wasn't the pain in his chest that scared him most. It was the thought that if he died that day, he wouldn't know who truly loved him, or if anyone did at all. "Sir," said his assistant, Paul, walking in. "Your children, Amanda and Felix, they said they are too busy to come today. Amanda's at a spa in Dubai. Felix is at some club in South Africa." Peter nodded slowly, not surprised. His children had everything they could ever ask for: private schools, luxury cars, the latest phones. But what they didn't seem to have anymore was time for their father. "Thanks, Paul," Peter said, his voice low. "Please cancel all my appointments this week. And call the house staff, everybody." "Sir," I said, "everyone. We're going to have a meeting." Soon, the living room was filled with people: the chef, the cleaner, the driver, the gateman, and even the gardener. They stood quietly, looking nervous. Peter looked at each of them with kind eyes. "I want to thank you all," Peter began. "I've been given a second chance. And before I leave this world, I want to know the truth." They looked at each other, confused. "I'm going to disappear for a while," he continued. "I'm going to pretend to be someone else. I want to see who will still care about me when there's no money involved. Don't tell Amanda or Felix. Don't tell anyone. If they ask where I went, say you don't know." There was silence. Then the driver, a middle-aged man named Tunde, raised his hand. "Oga, are you sure this is safe? You're a rich man, sir. What if something happens to you?" Peter gave a small smile. If something bad was going to happen, it would have already happened last week. "I need to do this. I need to know if my children really love me, or just my money." The chef looked like he wanted to speak, but stayed quiet. No one truly understood what Peter was planning, but they respected him too much to question him. That night, Peter stood in front of the mirror. He pulled off his expensive robe and put on some old, faded clothes he hadn't worn in years. He trimmed his hair unevenly and rubbed ash into his beard to make it look gray. Then he packed a small bag, slipped out of the mansion quietly, and walked into the streets of Lagos, alone. It was strange, walking without a driver or bodyguard. Cars zoomed past. Nobody recognized him. For the first time in 20 years, Peter Daniels was invisible. By evening, he had reached a slum area on the outskirts of Lagos. The streets were narrow, the houses made from wood and rusted iron sheets. Children ran barefoot, laughing and chasing tires with sticks. The smell of roasted corn and fried akara filled the air. Peter was tired, hungry, and unsure of what to do. He sat on an old wooden bench beside a small corn stand, holding his stomach. A woman turned to look at him. She was in her late 30s, dressed in a faded wrapper and a loose t-shirt. Her name was Joy. "You look hungry, uncle," she said gently. Peter nodded. "Yes, I haven't eaten all day." She looked at him closely. "You don't look like someone from around here." "I used to be someone," he said quietly. "But now, I've lost everything." Joy didn't ask questions. She simply handed him a roasted corn, wrapped in brown paper. "Here, eat first." Peter took it with shaking hands. "Thank you," he whispered. She smiled. "No problem. Eat while it's hot." He sat there, chewing slowly, the sweet taste of the corn reminding him of his childhood. He hadn't eaten something this simple in decades. "Where are you sleeping tonight?" Joy asked. Peter looked down. "I don't know. Maybe outside." Joy sighed. "You're an old man. You'll get sick. Come, follow me. My place is small, but at least you'll have a roof over your head." Peter hesitated. He hadn't expected kindness, especially not from a stranger. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. Joy chuckled. "Because one day, someone helped me too." She led him to a tiny room behind the corn stand. Inside, there was a thin mattress on the floor, a mosquito net full of holes, and one small plastic table. A little boy sat on the floor playing with bottle caps. He looked up and smiled. "Mummy, who is this?" "This is Uncle Peter. He'll be staying with us for a few days." Peter knelt down and shook the boy's hand. "What's your name, little man?" "Elijah," the boy said proudly. Peter smiled. "That's a strong name." That night, Peter lay on the mattress, staring at the ceiling. The room was hot, and mosquitoes buzzed in his ear. But he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. In the morning, Joy handed him a small broom. "If you want to stay here," she said playfully, "you'll have to earn your spot. Sweep the compound." Peter laughed for the first time in days. "Yes, Ma." As he swept, Joy watched from a distance, smiling. There was something strange about this man. He didn't talk much, but his eyes were full of stories. Later that day, Peter helped her roast corn. He burnt the first 5. "Ah, Uncle Peter," Joy teased. "Are you trying to set my business on fire?" Sorry. Peter laughed, waving the smoke away. They both burst out laughing. People in the street turned to stare. Joy hadn't laughed like that in years. Over the next few days, Peter watched how hard Joy worked. She woke up at 4 a.m. every morning, prepared her son for school, set up her corn stand, and worked till nightfall. She never complained. She gave even when she didn't have enough. One afternoon, as they sat under a tree, Joy asked, "Uncle Peter, what did you do before?" Peter paused. "I used to run a business. But I got sick. Lost everything." Joy nodded. "Life can be hard like that. But God sees us. He always does." Peter looked at her. "You believe that?" "With all my heart," she said. That night, Peter watched Elijah sleep beside his mother, curled up in peace. He had found more love and care in this small room than he had in his mansion. He began to wonder, what would Amanda and Felix do if they saw him like this? Would they recognize him? Would they help? A small tear rolled down his cheek. He wiped it quickly. This was just the beginning. Absolutely. Here is the elaboration of. It had been 1 full week since Peter Daniels disappeared. Back at the mansion, chaos was quietly growing. The staff, true to Peter's instruction, refused to answer any questions. Amanda, his 28-year-old daughter, flew in from Dubai with perfectly manicured nails and a sharp attitude. Her younger brother Felix, dressed in a designer hoodie, arrived that same morning with 2 phones in his hands. "What do you mean you don't know where Daddy is?" Amanda snapped at Paul, the assistant. Paul kept his face neutral. "He left suddenly, Ma. No one has heard from him." "Left? Without telling us? Are you people mad?" Felix shouted, pacing the hallway. "Do you know who I am? I'm his only son." Amanda turned to the family lawyer, Mr. Benson, who stood quietly holding a brown envelope. "I think you both need to see this," he said calmly. He handed Amanda the envelope, and she tore it open impatiently. Inside was a single sheet of paper, Peter's handwriting unmistakable. To Amanda and Felix. "If you're reading this, then I've made a choice. I've left my wealth to those who need it most, orphans, widows, and the poor. I have seen enough greed in this world. I hope one day, you'll understand. Peter Daniels." Amanda's eyes widened. Her mouth dropped open. "What?" Felix grabbed the letter and read it again. No. This is a joke. This is a prank. Where's the real Will?" Mr. Benson shook his head. "This is the only letter he left. He instructed me not to contact the media." Amanda sank into the leather couch, shocked. "How can Daddy do this to us? After everything we've done for him?" Felix slammed his fist on the wall. "This is not possible. That man has properties in Lekki, Abuja, even South Africa. And we get nothing." Amanda suddenly stood up. "Maybe he's testing us. Maybe there's a real Will hidden somewhere." Felix nodded eagerly. "Yes, maybe it's in the study. Or the safe." The 2 of them turned into wild animals, ransacking the house. Books flew off shelves. Cushions were torn open. Amanda even removed a painting from the wall, convinced something was behind it. "Try Daddy's drawer." Felix shouted. "I did already." Amanda yelled back, sweat on her forehead. "This can't be real. He wouldn't leave us out like that. We're his children." "Maybe." Felix paused, eyes narrowing. "Maybe one of the staff took the real Will." Amanda spun around. "You mean Paul? Or the cook? Or the driver? One of them," Let's get cameras. Let's question them. For the next 2 days, Amanda and Felix treated the staff like criminals. They held long interrogations, asked stupid questions, and even searched the rooms of loyal workers. In front of the press, Amanda cried crocodile tears. "We miss our father so much," she sniffled, wiping her fake tears with a lace handkerchief. "We are doing all we can to find him. Please, if anyone sees him, let us know." Felix stood beside her, sunglasses hiding his eyes, nodding like a robot. But behind the scenes, both siblings were boiling with greed and frustration. The fortune they had been waiting to inherit was slipping through their fingers, and they were ready to do anything to get it back. Peter sat at the corner of the street market with a small bag of roasted groundnuts in his lap. He had a cap pulled low over his eyes and a torn jacket over his shoulders. He looked nothing like a billionaire now, just another old man blending into the noise of Lagos. But inside, his heart was heavy. From a distance, he had watched Amanda throw out his favorite cook, Mr. Martins, who had served their family for 15 years. "You're no longer needed," Amanda had said coldly. "We're cutting costs." Mr. Martins had begged. "But I helped raise you, Amanda. I was there when your mother died." Amanda's face stayed like stone. "This is business. You should be thankful you got to stay this long." Peter had turned away, tears burning his eyes. Then Felix did something even worse. Peter followed him quietly to Mr. Benson's office, where he watched through the window as Felix slipped a brown envelope across the table. "Sir," Felix whispered. "Look, we both know my dad had a real will. Help me find it, and I'll give you 20% of everything." Mr. Benson stood up, furious. "Felix, your father trusted me. Do you think I'm like you?" "Everyone has a price," Felix smirked. "Get out," Mr. Benson snapped. "Before I call the police." Peter shook his head and walked away, feeling a sharp pain in his chest, not physical, but emotional. His own children were selling out everything he believed in. Back in the slum, Joy was frying plantains when Peter arrived. "Welcome back, Uncle Peter," she said, wiping her hands. "I saved some food for you." Peter tried to smile. "Thank you, Joy. You're too kind." "Please," she said. "Sit down and eat. You look tired." Elijah ran up with his usual energy. "Grandpa Pete, guess what? I drew another picture for you." He handed Peter a crayon drawing of the three of them holding hands in front of a small house. Peter looked at the drawing and smiled genuinely. "Do you like it?" Elijah asked eagerly. "I love it," Peter said, patting his head. "I'm going to keep it forever." That night, as they all sat outside eating together, just a bowl of Gary and fried fish, Peter watched Joy share the last piece with Elijah. "You didn't eat," he said softly. Joy shrugged. "I'm not hungry. Elijah needs it more." Peter stared at her. "You gave me food yesterday too. And the day before. You always say you're not hungry." She smiled gently. "When you're a mother, you learn to lie to your stomach." Peter's eyes welled up. He quickly looked away, pretending to cough. Here he was, sitting in the smallest, poorest place he had ever been in, yet feeling richer than ever. The warmth, the love, the laughter, it was real. Joy treated him like a person, not a wallet. Elijah looked up to him, not because of money, but because he listened and cared. Meanwhile, in the mansion he once called home, his children were turning on each other like wolves. That same night, Amanda walked into the living room with a cold smile. "Guess what?" she said to Felix. "I sold Daddy's dog." "What?" Felix said. "Bruno. That's his favorite dog." Amanda shrugged. "We don't need it. It's just extra stress. Plus, someone offered me a good price." Felix shook his head. "You're a monster." "You're one to talk," Amanda replied. "You tried to bribe the lawyer." They stared at each other in disgust. Then Amanda whispered, "What if Daddy is really gone? What if he's never coming back?" Felix looked away. "Then we find that will, or we rewrite it." Back in the slum, Peter whispered a quiet prayer under the stars. "God, help me make the right decision." And somewhere deep inside him, he began to realize something. Maybe this test wasn't just for his children. Maybe it was for him, too. Peter Daniels, once the powerful billionaire of Lagos, now stood in the middle of a slum yard holding a big yellow container. He stared at the long line of people waiting to fetch water from a tiny tap on the side of a wall. "This can't be that hard," he muttered to himself. He had seen people carry these water containers on their heads, walk long distances, and not complain. How hard could it be? Uncle Pete, Joy said, walking past him with a smile. Are you sure you want to do this? Peter puffed up his chest. Joy, I am not that old. I can fetch water. She laughed. All right-o. Just don't fall inside the gutter. Peter gave a confident wave and marched toward the water tap. After waiting for what felt like forever, it was finally his turn. He bent to place the container under the tap, but as he did, his foot slipped. Ah! He shouted. Splash! Right into a muddy gutter. People around shouted and rushed to help, but most couldn't hold back their laughter. Sorry, sir, a boy giggled. Your face entered the water too. Joy ran up, trying not to laugh but failing badly. Oh no, Uncle Pete. You look like a roasted yam that fell in stew. Peter sat in the dirty water, covered in mud, blinking. Then he started to laugh too. A deep, hearty laugh he hadn't felt in years. Well, he said, at least the mud is free. They pulled him out and Joy brought a towel from her little room. As she wiped his face, still giggling, Peter looked up at her with mock seriousness. Promise me something, he said. What? Never tell anyone about this day. Joy raised a hand like she was taking an oath. Too late. I'm already writing a song about it. Later that evening, determined not to give up, Peter tried something else. I'll roast the corn today, he told Joy, who was preparing the tray. Are you sure? I've watched you do it. How hard can it be? Joy stepped aside, shaking her head. Go ahead, Chef Pete. Peter arranged the firewood like he had seen, lit the fire, and placed the raw corn carefully on the grill. He sat beside it with pride. 10 minutes passed. The corn was not turning golden like Joy's always did. It was still pale and raw. I think it's ready, he said and picked one. It was soft and chewy, still half raw. Maybe the fire is too small, he said. So he added more wood. Then too much. Whoosh! The fire flared up, and within seconds, all the corn turned black. Ah! Fire! He jumped up. It's burning. Joy ran over and used a bowl of water to put out the fire. When the smoke cleared, Peter stood there with charred corn in one hand, his eyebrows slightly singed. I was just testing the limit, he said. Joy bent over laughing, holding her stomach. Uncle Pete, please just sit down and let me do it, before you roast yourself next. Even Elijah came running. Grandpa Pete burned the corn. Peter rolled his eyes. You people should show some respect. I'm a man of many talents. Roasting isn't one of them. Joy teased. The three of them laughed together under the orange sky. In all his years as a billionaire, Peter had never known this kind of simple happiness. He had lost his wealth, but strangely, he had found joy, real, loud, belly-aching joy. And it was beautiful. The next morning, Peter sat on the wooden bench outside Joy's room, sipping hot pap from a metal cup. Elijah sat beside him, humming as he colored in a drawing book Joy had found from a street cellar. What are you drawing today? Peter asked. Elijah smiled. A spaceship. You, me, and Mummy are flying in it. And we're eating roasted corn. Peter chuckled. Even in space. Yes, but not the burnt one you made. Peter gasped playfully. Traitor. After all I've done for you. Elijah giggled. Sorry, Grandpa Pete. Peter paused, his heart warming at the nickname. Why do you call me that? He asked softly. Elijah shrugged. Because you're like a grandpa. You tell stories. You listen. You protect me. I like you. Peter looked at the boy. So innocent. So pure. Come here, he said and pulled Elijah into a hug. Inside Joy's small room, Joy watched the scene through the curtain and smiled to herself. Peter had become a part of their little family, and though she didn't know his past, she could feel that he had once known greatness. That afternoon, Peter and Elijah walked to the nearby riverbank. The boy ran ahead chasing butterflies while Peter sat under a tree, watching the clouds. Elijah returned holding a small white stone. For you, he said. It's magic. If you keep it, you'll never be sad. Peter took the stone with trembling fingers. Thank you, my boy. Elijah smiled and sat beside him. You know, my real grandpa died when I was a baby. Mum said he was kind. Peter looked down at him. I'm sure he was. And I'm sure he would be proud of you. Do you have children? Elijah asked suddenly. Peter froze. I do, he said quietly. A son and a daughter. Do they love you like I do? Peter looked away, his throat tight. I wish they did. Elijah placed his tiny hand over Peter's. Well, I love you. And Mummy does too. Tears welled up in Peter's eyes, but he wiped them quickly before Elijah could see. That night, after Elijah had gone to sleep, Peter and Joy sat outside again, looking at the stars. You're good with him, Joy said. Peter nodded. He reminds me of what I lost. Joy looked at him. What did you lose? Peter stayed into the sky. Trust. Family. I had everything once. Money, power, houses. But the people closest to me only saw me as a bank. Joy didn't ask more questions. She just reached over and touched his hand. Well, hey, you're just Uncle Pete. And you're loved for who you are, not for what you have. Peter turned to her, emotions swirling in his chest. The slum was dirty. The food was little. The roof leaked. But for the first time in a long time, he felt at home. Thank you, he whispered. Joy smiled. You're welcome, Uncle Pete. As the crickets sang and the wind blew softly, Peter closed his eyes. He had lived in mansions. But here, under a tin roof, with two hearts who truly cared for him, he had finally found love. Amanda Daniels stood in her father's mansion wearing a silk robe and a permanent scowl. She was tired of waiting. This is nonsense, she hissed, pacing in the sitting room. Dad disappears, no trace, and the lawyer won't release a dime. Felix, lounging with a glass of whiskey, shrugged. He said there's no official proof of death. No body. No burial. So, technically, Dad could still be alive. Amanda narrowed her eyes. Then we give them proof. Felix sat up slowly. What do you mean? I mean, she said with a wicked smile, we fake his death. Again. But this time, we make it official. Felix blinked. You've lost your mind. Amanda leaned in. We tell the media Dad died while on a private trip abroad. We stage a funeral. Once the world believes it, we claim the insurance, and the lawyer has no choice but to release the estate. Felix scratched his head. But what if he comes back? Amanda scoffed. He's gone, Felix. He probably wandered off and died somewhere. He was sick, remember? Weak. If he's not dead by now, he will be soon. Felix hesitated, then sighed. Fine. But we do it smart. No mistakes. Amanda clapped her hands. Finally, some teamwork. But Felix had his own secret. That morning, he had broken into the family garage, hot-wired Peter's vintage Rolls-Royce, and drove it out like a thief in the night. He sold it for half its value to a shady dealer. When asked if he had the paperwork, he simply lied. It's a gift from my old man. Meanwhile, Mr. Johnson, Peter's loyal lawyer, sat at his office desk, staring at a document Amanda had sent him, an obituary with Peter's name printed boldly on it. His eyes narrowed. She's planning something, he murmured. Peter wouldn't die quietly. Not Peter Daniels. He picked up the phone and called a private investigator. I need you to look into Amanda and Felix Daniels. Dig deep. I smell fraud. The Daniels mansion buzzed with activity. A memorial service had been organized in the living room, complete with framed photos of Peter, candles, and dramatic music. Amanda stood before a crowd of invited guests, friends, fake mourners, reporters. We gather today, she said with forced tears, to honor a great man. My father, Peter Daniels, may have left this world quietly, but his impact was loud. He loved us. He gave us everything. Felix stood behind her, dabbing his dry eyes with a white handkerchief. One of the guests whispered, "Where's the coffin?" Amanda replied quickly, "There was a private cremation, his last wish." Ah, the crowd murmured in sympathy. Just then, the lawyer, Mr. Johnson, arrived with a stern look on his face. He walked straight to the front and said coldly, "There will be no insurance payout. Not yet." Amanda stiffened. "Why not?" "Because I have reason to believe this entire ceremony is based on lies." Gasps filled the room. "Excuse me." Amanda hissed. "You will be excused," the lawyer snapped, "when the truth walks through that door." Everyone turned toward the entrance. The double doors slowly opened, and in walked Peter Daniels, in his full billionaire glory. Black designer suit, clean-shaven, standing tall, with the quiet confidence of a man who had seen everything. The entire room went silent. Amanda's eyes widened. She grabbed a chair and fainted on the spot. Felix dropped his handkerchief and stammered, "Dad? D-Daddy? Is that really you?" Peter looked around the room, slowly. "So this is my funeral, huh?" The crowd burst into shocked murmurs. Felix ran to him, suddenly crying. Daddy, you're alive. I never gave up hope. Peter raised a hand. Save the tears, Felix. You sold my Rolls Royce. Felix's jaw dropped. I. And Amanda, Peter continued, walking over to her as she slowly woke up on the floor. Nice speech. Cremation. My last wish. Very creative. She sat up, shaking. Dad, I thought you were. We were worried. Peter chuckled bitterly. Worried? You tried to fake my death. The lawyer stepped forward. I have evidence. Voice recordings, documents. It's all being sent to the authorities. Amanda and Felix looked at each other in panic. Peter took a deep breath. You both failed the test. Then he turned around and gestured. Joy walked in, holding Elijah's hand. She was dressed modestly but neatly, still unaware of the full picture. Uncle Pete, she said, confused. Why are all these people looking at us? Amanda blinked. Who is this? Peter smiled. This is Joy, he said. The woman who took care of me when I had nothing. And this, he bent and lifted Elijah into his arms, is my grandson, by love, not by blood. Whispers echoed through the hall. Amanda hissed. Dad, you can't be serious. I'm more serious than I've ever been, Peter replied. Joy gave me a home when I was dirty, poor, and unrecognizable. You kicked out my dog and the cook who raised you. She fed me her last meal and laughed at my dry jokes. You faked my death for money. She called me family. The room went quiet. Peter walked to the front and said, to everyone here, consider this my real will reading. He opened a folder and began to read. All assets previously under Amanda and Felix are frozen. Legal action will follow. Joy and Elijah will be under my protection. And as for the Daniels estate, it will be given only to those who have proven their hearts. Amanda stood up. You've gone mad. Peter turned to her slowly. No, Amanda. I've finally gone wise. The crowd clapped softly, some even cheering. Felix sat down, defeated. Amanda fumed. And Joy. She stood there, shocked, tears in her eyes. I don't understand, she said softly. You're a billionaire. Peter turned to her with a kind smile. I was. But after knowing you, I'm something even richer. Joy covered her mouth in disbelief. You deserve everything, Joy, Peter said. You showed me what real love feels like. Elijah hugged him tight. I told you my stone was magic, Grandpa Pete. Peter laughed. Yes, you did, champ. Yes, you did. And as the mansion echoed with gasps, laughter, and a new beginning, Peter Daniels knew the truth. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find the people who were worth everything. The Daniels mansion was unusually silent the next morning. Amanda and Felix had been summoned by Mr. Johnson, the lawyer, for a final announcement regarding Peter's estate. Amanda strutted in with a dark dress and sunglasses, though there was no sun indoors. Felix followed, trying to act cool, though sweat dotted his forehead. Let's get this over with, Amanda said, crossing her legs. I have a spa appointment. Mr. Johnson didn't respond. He simply tapped a remote. A massive screen on the wall came alive. The room darkened. A video began to play. It was security footage. The first clip showed Felix sneaking into the garage, hot-wiring the Rolls Royce. What the hell? Felix muttered. Then came a voice recording. Felix's own voice, talking to the buyer. Just wire the money. The car's mine. My old man doesn't need it anymore. Felix stood frozen, mouth open. Amanda turned to him sharply. You idiot. You were caught. Felix shook his head. They said there were no cameras. Peter's voice came from behind them. A billionaire always has backup. They turned. Peter Daniels stood at the doorway, arms folded. Next clip, Amanda speaking on the phone. We'll fake the death. No one needs to know. I'll even wear black and cry if I have to. Then another clip, Amanda throwing out the family cook and yelling, Get lost. You were loyal to a man who abandoned us. Amanda jumped to her feet. This is an invasion of privacy. You can't use those videos. Peter raised an eyebrow. I can when it's in my own house. Mr. Johnson stepped forward with a thick document in his hand. This is Peter Daniels' final will and testament, legally signed and witnessed. Amanda sat back down slowly. Felix covered his face. Peter took the paper and read aloud. To Amanda and Felix Daniels, my children by blood, you have disappointed me beyond words. You chose greed over love, selfishness over kindness, lies over truth. He paused, then looked at them both. You will each receive a small allowance monthly, just enough to live, and just enough to remind you of what you lost. Amanda gasped. A small allowance. I'm your daughter. Peter continued, ignoring her. To Joy, who took me in when I was broken and treated me like family, I leave the majority of my estate. She did more for me in 3 months than you two did in 30 years. Joy's eyes widened in disbelief. To Elijah, Peter smiled, my grandson by heart. I leave my name, my blessing, and a trust fund that will carry him through life. Felix jumped up. This is a joke. That woman's a corn seller. You're giving our money to roadside people. Peter turned to him sharply. No. I'm giving my money to people who understand what love really is. Amanda stood up, hands shaking. You can't do this. We're your family. Peter's voice was calm but firm. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shares your heart. The room fell into heavy silence. Tears filled Joy's eyes. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Peter walked over to her and smiled. Just say you'll never stop being you. Elijah, standing beside her, looked up and said, Does this mean we can live in a big house? Peter laughed for the first time in a long time. It means you'll never go hungry again, Elijah. Amanda burst into tears, not of sorrow, but of rage. This is a nightmare. You can't expect me to live like a normal person. Mr. Johnson said coldly, You'll find the job listings on your way out. Security stepped forward politely. Amanda and Felix stormed out, shouting. Peter took Joy's hand and smiled. You've just inherited a problem, Joy said with a nervous laugh. Peter chuckled. No, I've just inherited peace. Weeks later, Peter Daniels stood outside a modest but beautiful home built in a quiet part of town. It wasn't as grand as his mansion, but it had one thing his old house didn't: heart. Joy and Elijah stepped out of a black SUV, eyes wide with wonder. You built this? Joy whispered. Peter nodded. For us. For a new start. Elijah ran into the garden, giggling. We have flowers. And a mango tree. Joy turned to Peter, eyes shining. Why would you do this for us? Peter smiled gently. Because I was a billionaire with nothing, and now I'm a simple man with everything. They walked into the house together, warm walls, colorful furniture, a real kitchen that smelled of fresh paint and promise. Peter had adopted Elijah legally. The papers were signed, sealed, and witnessed. Welcome to your new home, Elijah Daniels, Peter said. Elijah beamed. I have a last name now. Yes, Peter said. The best one I could give. Meanwhile, Amanda and Felix had been forced to face the real world. Amanda now worked as a receptionist at a spa, not as a client, but as the one taking bookings. She had to smile at rich women and say, Please have a seat. Every evening, she muttered, I used to own places like this. Felix tried his hand at real estate, but nobody trusted him. One day, he approached a client with a fake land deal, only to discover it was a trap. The lawyer had arranged it to teach him a lesson. Felix narrowly escaped jail. They lived in a rented 2-room apartment, with no chef, no driver, and certainly no Rolls-Royce. Back at Peter's new home, laughter filled the air. Joy had opened a small roasted corn business by the road nearby, but this time, she had branding, packaging, and even delivery bikes. Elijah and Joy's golden corn. The banner read. Peter helped manage it. He even roasted corn himself, though he still burned the first few. Joy would laugh and say, Grandpa Peter's trying again. One weekend, Peter organized a small party. Not a billionaire party, but a community one. They were children playing, old women dancing, music playing softly in the background. Peter stood in the middle of it all, watching Joy dance with Elijah. Then Elijah pulled him into the circle. Dance, Grandpa Pete. Peter shook his head, laughing. I don't know how to dance. Joy grabbed his hands. Then just move. That's what life is, Peter. You just move. So he danced, awkwardly, then freely. Neighbors clapped. Children cheered. Peter threw his head back and laughed, arms raised to the sky. It was the first time in years he had laughed that hard. As the sun set behind them, the scene was pure magic. A former billionaire in a simple shirt, dancing barefoot in his garden. A little boy spinning with joy. A woman who once sold corn now smiling like a queen. And a heart once cold, now full. Peter whispered to himself, This is wealth. The end. Please don't forget to hit the like button, comment and subscribe to get more interesting stories like this.